Good morning and welcome to Vlogmas Day 3. Thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time, hi, I'm Kimberly. Today we are doing a really fun project. We're going to be starting on my New Year's Eve ball gown. This is probably going to be 2 or 3 parts, just because, you know, I can't make a dress in a day and it's Vlogmas, so I gotta put this video up. But today we're going to be working on the bustier part of the dress. So I'm going for a sweetheart neckline, and I'll have some videos linked below. I'm not a professional sewer, so like I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I know how to sew, but this is my first time making an actual ball gown, so it's gonna be fun. And yeah, if you want to see how I do that, just keep on watching. So the first thing I'm going to do is switch out my thread and bobbin for some white thread. Okay, so the fabric I chose for my ball gown is this gorgeous glittery, it was supposed to be peach, but it's really more of a lavender kind of pink vibe. And it's so glittery, like look at that glitter. And it does have interfacing already attached to it, so that's really nice. It's not see-through. This obviously still isn't a fabric I want touching my skin. I have a lot of issues with textures. So I also have some plain white cotton that is just going to be the lining. So I do already have a pattern for my sweetheart bodice. I'll link some videos down below of how I learned how to do this. And I'm just going to cut out a square of fabric of this so that it's more manageable, and then trace the pattern onto it and cut it out. Okay, so I have 3 cuts of fabric here that are just bigger than the pattern pieces, and I did leave it folded in half. You know, most fabric comes already folded in half before they actually fold it up, because I do need 2 of each of these pattern pieces. So we've got a cut for the back panel. And while I'm cutting this fabric, I did have my iron heating up. This is a cut for the front side. And then I have a 3rd cut for the front center. So before I do anything with these pattern pieces, I am going to iron this fabric, get it all straightened out and ready to go. So I will just lay out my fabric, put the pattern piece on there, and then I just put something on top to weigh down the pattern piece. They do sell pattern weights. I do not have those, so I just use whatever I have handy, which right now is my little thing full of pliers. So I just use whatever I have handy to weigh that down. Take my fabric marker, which there's 2 different kinds on this. So there's disappearing ink, so this purple side. Okay, is it gonna focus? So this purple side disappears with time. Dang it, it really won't focus. So if you use the purple end, it'll just disappear after a few minutes, which is normally enough time for you to cut the fabric out and follow that line before it vanishes. And then the blue side is Ballgown, so it's water soluble. So you have to stick it in the wash to get rid of it. I like the purple side just because it's easier to use in my opinion, but I'll just take that. And then I'm just going to trace along here. So I'll just move my weight, take the pattern away, and now we have it drawn on here. So we just cut that out with fabric scissors, not just any scissors. You want to be able to get a nice crisp line. Okay, so now the piece is cut out, and because I did it on a folded piece of fabric, I have two pieces. So then that'll be the neckline, and it's pretty cute, I think. So I'm just going to repeat that same thing with the other pattern pieces. Okay, so now we have all of the pieces cut out here. And what I'm going to do is take one piece, grab the other piece, so that goes right there. And then we need the back panel, which goes right there. And basically what I'm going to do is take this and sew it all up. So first I'm going to take this side panel, and sorry, I don't have like a fancy camera setup, so I have to hold the camera, which leaves me one hand. Unless I want to put on a good bra so that my boobs can hold the camera. But I'm going to lay it out like this so that the two front sides are together. This is obviously just plain cotton both sides, so either side doesn't really matter, but you want to make sure the patterns laid out are properly. So two front sides together, going to sew along here, and then once that's done, I will bring this end to meet that end and sew that as well. And it your pattern may look different. It may not be as sharp of an angle up there if your breasts are smaller, but I am very large chested, and so it's like creating a dart to create that curvature that I need to be able to have this fitted to my body. Once I have this piece sewed together, I will do the same thing with the back panel, where I'll lay it along the side panel, line it all up, and sew along here. And then that'll be 1/2. So let's do that. Now, if you wanted, you could definitely go along here and secure it with pins. I honestly hardly ever use pins. I probably should, but I don't, so. So that you can see, it creates like the boob dart. Did I do the wrong side on there? I don't think so. So now we will line up the back panel. Okay, so now that we have two pieces, I'm going to take the two and connect them right in the center to create the sweetheart neckline. So we're going to go right sides together. We want to keep all the seams on the inside. Just line that up. And then we're going to sew that together as well. And now we have the bustier lining, or the bodice lining. So now what I'm going to do is take my pattern pieces and my pretty fabric and do the exact same thing that I just did, but on this fabric. Okay, so now I have basically two bodice shapes. So we have it in the gorgeous glitter fabric, and then we have it in the cotton lining. So what I'm going to do is line it up with the seams facing out on both fabrics, and I am going to pin this because it is a lot and they're two different materials, so I don't want them shifting or anything, especially since this glitter is a stretch fabric. So I'm just going to go along and pin this in place. Okay, so I've pinned it all along the top, just the top. I didn't do the sides or the bottom. But before we actually sew anything, I want to make sure that I know where I want my sleeves to go. So we got to do that real quick first. And I'll just use a piece like that. And there's the strap. And then I'm just going to hold it up to my body, make sure that it is long enough. I think it is because I've already made straps before. Like, this is a strap that I have, and I made this one too long. So, yep, that's about the right size. So now I'm just going to make a second one of these. Okay, so now we have these little tubes, and we're going to turn them inside out. You can always use a safety pin or an actual turner to do this, but with this kind of fabric, it's just so easy that I don't feel like I need anything other than my fingers. And then I'm just going to grab a scrap of the cotton fabric because obviously I don't want to put my iron straight on this material. And I'm going to put the seam down so that we're going like this. So for positioning these sleeves, I'm going to take the bodice, put it against my body, and then I'm going to mark where I want the sleeve to go by taking the pin that's there and turning it the other direction so it's going to stick out. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. And then that's a good spot. I'm planning my straps to cover my bra straps, so that's why I picked this specific spot. And then we will wrap this around, find the spot that's there, which is right here. Nope, sorry, wrong thing. And then we can turn this around and make sure that those line up. So these two, yep, those are lined up. And the one on the back, we're gonna make sure this one matches, so that way it's in the same spot on both sides. So now what I'm gonna do is go to where I took that sideways pin, take it out, put this in. And let me make sure I have it facing the right way. I want the seam inside so that it'll be against my skin. I want that to go through the lining. So that just the seam is coming out. Just like that. And then when that goes like that, it'll be that way. So pin that right there. And then we need it to come over. Make sure I'm going this the right way. There we go. We'll take this pin out. Just slide this little sleeve end right in there. And pin it in place. And so that way, when we sew it up, the sleeve will be in place and the edges will be hidden because they'll be sewed in. I did not pin that one properly. There we go. So now we have the sleeve pinned on both ends. So both of those edges will be hidden inside the seam and it'll already be in place. We won't have to try and add it in later. So I'm just going to do the same exact thing with the other one. Okay, so now that everything is pinned in place, we're just going to sew along this top edge. Now when we get to this inner corner right in the center of the sweetheart neckline, I'm just gonna twist the fabric while the needle is still down because I don't want to lose that V. And then we can turn this inside out, oh, right side out. And we have a beautiful bodice. With straps. So now that everything's all ironed out, these seams are going to stay nicely and just lay really nicely against the neckline. But we need to get started on the corset back. So we're going to move this off to the side real quick. Get that out of the way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is lay out my 2 pieces of scrap fabric. So we got the glittery fabric, and we got some cotton fabric. I'm just going to stack those on top of each other. Mark the top because that's where the top is going to go, and then I think we're going to do about 7 inches, and then the length is going to be the same as this back panel, which is about 9 inches. I'll just cut that out of both fabrics. Okay, I'm going to stick those right sides together. And we're going to sew along 3 edges. I've got a lot of excess here, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Turn this inside out. Make sure to pop those corners out. Now we're going to iron this nice and flat. Now we'll take our bodice. We're just going to take one side of this back piece, slide this right on in there. And it's okay for this to be a little bit longer than this because this is our seam allowance for when we attach this bodice to the skirt. And then we're going to pin it in place. Sorry if you heard some weird background noises. They are doing our trees in the backyard, but I have this little ribbon that I made just out of some scrap fabric. We're going to take from our back here, and I'm just going to cut this into 2-inch strips. So okay, so now I'm just going to fold them in half so that it makes a little loop, and I'm going to pin them in, but I'm going to pin them underneath this first layer right there. And I'm going to space them out so we have room for the ribbon to go through, and then I'm going to put some on this end as well. So I'll be right back. Okay, so my camera battery died, but all I did was sew the loops on, and I did a double stitch. I'm not sure if you can see that. So I sewed the loops on, so hard to focus on glitter fabric. And then I laced the ribbon through it to hold it together. So now it's just time to try it on. Okay, so we're gonna ignore the fact that my sewing room is now trashed, but this is what it looks like. I'm sorry I don't have a better mirror, actually. Okay, so ignore all the laundry, but this is what the bodice looks like. So we got the neckline and the straps. It is a little looser than I thought it would be. But I think with the elastic waistband of the skirt, that'll come in. That's the back with the ribbon. That's my face. Obviously that little piece will stay over. There we go. Okay, that's the back. So that is it for today's video, just making the bodice of this gown. If you want to see how the dress actually comes out, how I do the skirt, anything like that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!